This week I learned reviewers, apparently we're not allowed to be readers too. Hey, what's up, bookworms? Mike back with another weekly update. Been a very interesting week. Not one of my more favorite ones, as real life continues to be a challenge every day. But you know, that's just the world that we do live in. But lots of things I think to talk about for a weekly update, and we're gonna dip into that now. We're gonna begin like always talking about what am I reading, guys. I did finish Bone White by Ronald Malfi. Yeah, you might have heard of him. If you're a constant viewer of the channel, you might have heard of Ronald Malfi at this point. This is one of those where if you're a Ronald Malfi reader, you're usually going through his books saying, please don't be a serial killer. Please be, something supernatural. I think you'll be happy with this because it is very, very much in the supernatural horror category. Now, that is something that I think he excels at when he dives into that. He's very good at the other thing as well, and I don't hate that. And I think he does a very good job of making you wonder, is this actually happening, or are these characters losing their mind a little bit? That's a fun idea to play around with. But if you're wanting some creepy, crawly, spooky stuff that makes you think, I never ever want to visit Alaska in my life, that's kind of the book you're going to get here. Guy is just kind of looking for his brother, ends up in a cabin out in the middle of no man's land, Alaska, and he sets the tension in this book up maybe as high as I've seen him do yet, where you are really your heart rate will start to increase a little bit in the final act of this book. So very, very happy with this. Very, very happy. I think this is one of those, only complaint I have about it is I wish it was just a touch longer, because you do get to the climax and then it just it ends rather quickly, which I think is fine once he reveals the thing in his books. He doesn't like to stay past his welcome, and I can appreciate that. I made the comparison saying that he is Stephen King adjacent, and like that you like Stephen King books, but you don't like that he takes 800 pages to get there. I think that Ronald Malfi probably an author you're looking for. But again, Malfi doesn't miss. This guy has been automatic. So far for me, my least favorite books of his have been really, really good. So again, this is without a doubt. I don't think it's a contest anymore. This is my favorite modern horror author working right now, and he continues to just hit home runs. And I'm going to run out of books going backwards soon. I think I'm going to do Night Parade. I got the Narrows. I've got what's the other one that I have? Ghost Written. I've got Ghost Written, and I think Little Girls is one that a lot of people and Snow are ones where people are trying to tell me to give a shot. But obviously, I'm not going to be finished reading him anytime soon. But I will probably be running out to where I'm not going to be doing one per month. So those of you who are like, please read different horror authors besides Ronald Malfi, you might be in luck very, very soon. Still chipping away at Dark Tower number 7. Almost there. They have reached the elusive Dark Tower where I am at. Like I said last week, guys, I can't really talk about the 7th book in a series without being really spoilery. So I'll talk about it more in depth when I get to my Into the Multiverse on it, even though that's spoiler-free. Someone brought up in a live stream, would you consider doing a live stream or a chat with someone talking full spoilers for the Dark Tower? That might not be a bad idea, I think, because there's so many things to lay out when you talk about the Dark Tower and things that work and things that didn't work. I have been well on record saying book 6 and 7 make some decisions I just can't get behind. Those decisions are still bother me. Yeah, I wouldn't say that it's not as heightened as Song of Susanna. There are things that I've calmed down a bit in this book, but the big thing still bothers me a lot. And now that we've been introduced to a certain painter character, those things, I feel like the tension's eased down a little bit with that character because they're explained in Insomnia. But again, I can't really talk about what I'm talking about without getting into spoilers. So I'll just say I'll be probably finishing Dark Tower this week, and it's been fun. It's been fun revisiting The Path of the Beam, and I can't wait to talk about it here at the end. And that brings me to what am I going to read? When I did finish Bone White, and I immediately picked up Gunmetal Gods right after. Now look, I'm not that far into it. I like 2 chapters, but I really like the way that it has been. Isn't that just a beautiful book? I mean, how stunning is this book? Mr. Akatar just hit a home run with this one, and I can't thank him enough for sending this to me. It's just so awesome reading out this edition with this nice, the way it introduces all the chapters. It's just stunning. I can't say enough about this edition, man. It's just amazing. Anyway, as for my initial thoughts of this, I like it a lot. Has that Indian influence. It kind of is it's giving me those darkness that comes before vibes right away. And I know that's a very high bar. I've talked about that I love The Darkness Comes Before. Might be one of the greatest fantasy books I've ever read. And it definitely is since I started reviewing things on this channel. But this gives me kind of those vibes, and just that it feels like I'm in the middle of a holy war in a kind of a foreign land, but also we're adding monsters into it, which is really, really cool. So you can see the cover that there's going to be some nice little Lovecraft kind of monsters in here. So that's what kind of turned me on to the series. But I'm liking his writing style already. I feel like it flows very easily. Of course, the names are a little like, whoa, at first, but I think you can get used to them. I can get to them a lot easier than I could something like the Way of Kings, not Way of Kings, Grace of Kings, Grace of Kings. But I am really, really digging what I've seen so far. I'll be able to talk about it more next week when I've actually read a little further. Literally only like 40 pages into it, but a really great introduction to Keva, which I think is, I believe this is the lead character of the series, and very, very interesting the way, kind of that word Lethal Weapon. I'm too old for this shit. Kind of like a guy that used to be really, really quick on his feet, but now it might be a little bit soggy around the waist and a little bit older, but his superior officer, let's call it that, wants him to do something, and he's like, I think I'm too old for this shit. But I will do whatever it is my Shah does demand. So very, very excited to get into this. I've heard, it's one of those books I don't feel like a lot of people have read, but everyone has read it, says really, really good things about it. And I am really excited to continue. So if your first impression is going to be everything in the book right away, I'm like, okay, I'm just kind of warped into this world, and I'm really digging where it's come from. And again, that's a high bar with Darkness Comes Before, and I'm not going to compare it. I'm not going to hold to that standard that The Darkness That Comes Before hit for me. But if I'm getting those vibes right away, I think that's a good thing to remind you of a book that you do love. After that, I'll probably be reading that probably the rest of the month here, because it's a little heavier. It's a smaller book, but it does feel like it's a little heavier than something like Driss, which is going to be my last book for the month, Starless Night, which you can read in like a day or two. But I should be able to get both those done here. 10 days left in the month. I should be able to get both of those done and actually hit my goals. Because last month I did not. I had to kick something off the list. But I should be able to hit everything that I have planned to read for the month of July. And that's exciting. It's always fun to hit our goals. And I've got a really good feeling about Gunmetal Gods early on here. And that's exciting. It's very, very exciting. So how about this week on the channel, guys? I get out a couple of videos. I did one that you make a video like this, you're always going to get kind of some wild reactions to it. And I knew that when I talked about it, because anything that I would deem is somewhat more on the negative side, I like to lean into the optimism, the positivity, and things like that. But sometimes you got to talk about some things that do grind your gears a little bit. And some things that grind my gears a little bit are some fantasy tropes. And I talked about the ones that I was tired of. And I think they should be retired. Like I said, you expect to get some reactions when you make a video like that. I would never, ever make a video like that, which I stayed up front. I know everybody's tired of the trope of YouTubers talking about tropes. They're tired of it. But, I want to give my opinion because a lot of people have asked about it. What are some fantasy tropes? As I say, I'm traditionally a lover of fantasy tropes. Like, I love dragons. I love a Dark Lord. I love the Chosen One. Those are things that, brought me to the genre. I'm okay with that. I don't have any problem with that. I love a good prophecy. If it works out the way that it should, I love it. I love when a prophecy is read wrong. These are things I'm really, really into. But there are things that really, really just drive me crazy. And, again, some of it might lean into modern fantasy a bit more. But I talk about the ones that really bother me. Some the reactions really range from, hey, I agree, to, wow, authors do that, to, I can't believe you don't feel the same way I do about this. So again, you have a video like that, which is, it's doing well. It's doing pretty well. And obviously it's getting in the feed for some people who aren't subscribed to the channel. It might be their first experience with the channel, and they're like, who is this fucking guy? And they're reacting that way. I've gotten comments like, well, when you actually write a book, you can be critical of these things. Like, well, okay, I wasn't allowed to have an opinion anymore. The big one really is someone saying that, I should not be making videos like this because I'm a reviewer. And reviewers shouldn't act like readers. I'm talking about books like I'm a reader. And I'm like, what? I think what they're trying to say is, I did say one part in that video that there were certain things that authors do that make me take them off my list. I'm not going to read them anymore. And they're saying that is very unfair as a reviewer. Now, look, I never consider myself a popular reviewer. It's nothing I do for a living. This is a hobby. If you have a problem with my name of my channel being Mike's Book Reviews, yeah, that's not aged well because, I listen to the viewers. And if they aren't watching reviews anymore, well, that's the environment. You have to adapt to it or you will perish, right? So if I could change the name of the channel, I would, but at this point you got brand recognition. Would you really change the name of your channel? No, I think you'll just have to understand that that's the name of the channel, and I don't do as many book reviews as I used to anymore. But I'm allowed to have opinions, and I'm not a professional. And I don't think that I'm ever to a point to where my criticism is harsh or mean-spirited. It's always saying that these bother me. They might not bother you. And I think I'm very clear about that. But I can see why that probably ruffled some feathers, and I knew it would. Some of the topics in there are not going to be popular. But again, when you make a video like that, you expect it. And, I'm not saying, oh, gosh, they hurt my feelings. It's like, I think they're funny. Some people don't find that when I highlight some of those really mean comments, they don't find it funny that I do that. To me, it's amusing. Like, could you really, you're really just banging away on that keyboard, just angry because I don't like it when a male author writes about a preteen girl having a period. We each have things that bother us. That's one that bothers me, So that's really what that video was about. Mostly, people are telling me, what I said. Let me know your least favorite tropes. And people are telling me they are interested in hearing me do my favorite tropes now. So that's a video that will happen here rather soon, I think. I'll talk about my favorite tropes in fantasy and why I love them. That's what I prefer to make on this channel. And that's what I shall do. Now, without getting too in depth with it, got some bad news in real life. Basically, the company I work for told us that we had a town hall finance meeting, and they did tell us that pretty much the finance department is on numbered days. They are embracing AI, and some of our jobs are going to be going, and mine is one of them, most likely. They don't come out and say it, and it probably won't be until Q1 of next year. But, it's one of those things where, like, when you work in the oil and gas industry, guys, you expect that. It's one of those things. You got to keep your head in a swivel. You got to be prepared for anything. You got to have a little rainy day fun in case something like that happens when you've got to look for a new job. It is just the environment. It's part of the business. You understand. But it was obviously a big punch in the nuts because who wants to start all over again? You get comfortable in a place. You're number 5 with this company now. It's very, very frustrating to have to say, okay, I'm going to be 47 here next month, and I got to start all over again. It's not a lot of fun. But, again, this is the business that I've chosen, and I'll make it through it. But obviously, it was very depressing, and it got me out of my headspace. It killed my creativity. So I didn't have a second video, really, that I could think of for this week. So I just said, hey, why don't I just do a live stream? Because it will, not only is it because it's simple to do, but it will cheer me up. You need to talk to you guys, cheers me up, answering your questions, just making sure that I get on a personal level and talk to you guys one-on-one. That's something I love to do because no matter how big the channel would ever get, I want to make sure I keep that same persona that I had when I first started. I'm just a guy with Wi-Fi. You can always talk to me. I'm just a dude. There's no celebrity about me. You want to talk to me, I think it's rather easy to get a hold of me. So this video is called I Had a Craptacular Week, so let's just chit-chat live stream. And talked about an hour and a half. Apparently my internet started breaking up towards the end, so I went ahead and called it. That seems to happen more and more often. Making me think about switching from StreamYard, because I'm having all kinds of problems with StreamYard lately. And I think they're doing that on purpose to get people to buy their deluxe edition, their premium edition, whatever. We got to pay to use it. And I think that they do this on purpose because, like I said, I'm interviewing an author that sold millions of books, and I drop out of my own live stream. That's why it's very hard for me to decide to do live streams again. And StreamYard, I think, is the culprit. But back to that live stream, it was really fun for me. And lots of people were talking and asking good questions. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you catch the replay, I appreciate it even more because that's really cool that you guys will listen to a live stream, not live, And I know not everybody can, we're not all in the same time zone, things like that, or, some people are at work or whatever. And there isn't a perfect time of day you can do it where everyone around the world can, be able to participate. But I appreciate everybody who made it, everybody who joined Team Replay. You guys are the real MVP, and I do appreciate you. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. It did lift my spirits. So some next week plans. Got a couple of things here. I think I'm going to do my reading plans for August. That'll be later in the week. Like I said, still kind of moving around that talk about nothing. But Patrick and I have gotten a date nailed down now, but it won't be next week to get together for a talk about nothing. So I'll be getting out my reading plans for August, still nailing them down what they're going to be. What I'm liking that I'm seeing so far is it looks like without much planning, I've gotten 5 different genres that I have planned for my reading plans in August. So that's exciting. Mixing it up is always a lot of fun. And then I talked recently about about what I thought about rereads, the good and the bad. I can see both sides of it. In the end, I kind of come down on I will never be able to read all this stuff, so I'm not going to participate in a lot of rereads, but there are some that I would reread tomorrow and without any problems. And I think what I want to kind of focus on is maybe Some of my favorite fantasy series that I have reread or I would like to reread. I think, again, rereading is something that's a comfort food for a lot of people. And a lot of times I have great nostalgia for things, and there's a lot of risk involved. Maybe it's not as good as you remember. Maybe you'll appreciate it even more. I think that rereads have a lot of value, and sometimes they have a lot of risks. So it's one of those where I say, hey, I think I could revisit that and feel as the same way as I do it now, with great love and admiration, without just the nostalgia goggles on. So I'm going to talk about some of those series, I think, because, again, I like to focus on the positive, and there are several series that really, I think, made me what I am as a reader, and I would love to revisit some of those old friends and familiar territories once again. That's kind of all I got for the books this week, guys. Got a couple of TV and movie talk things here before I go. This video, I know I keep saying this every week. This video is a little late because in the mornings I like to F around and watch TV. And my wife and I started watching the Billy Joel documentary that dropped on HBO this weekend. And it was almost 3 hours. Part 1. Part 2 comes next week. We're both huge Billy Joel fans. I think if you are a lover of music and you like things that sound good in your ear holes, I think everyone loves Billy Joel, or has a song at least. I think there's at least one song for everybody by Billy Joel. He's one of the greatest to ever do it. Now, I grew up clearly with Billy Joel. It was one of the few artists that my mom and I agreed on, because my mom was anti-rock and roll music besides Elvis Presley. It was like no rock and roll music in this house. And she was not a big fan of all the stuff that I was listening to. So there was an artist that I think that both of us could agree on. It was Billy and it was Elton. That was about it. So Billy Joel has a lot of great nostalgia value for me. And I've told you many times, I'm a sucker for a documentary. And this documentary is in-depth and it is incredible. And obviously the music's going to be amazing, but I love to hear what goes into the process of making it big, about having to break through in that industry, what it goes into writing music, what goes into the struggles, the ups and downs. And what I like about this is one of my criticisms of The Last Dance that Michael Jordan did was he was in full creative control and he would not allow any of the really, really negative stuff to come out about him. Whereas this, I like I want to know the ups and downs. That's why I read rock and roll biographies. I love to hear the ups and downs of that life as a rock star, and this does not shy away from them at all. Very, very good. Very, very sad. There is some very, very sad stuff in there, but very in-depth. If you're a fan of his music, I think you will absolutely adore it. If you've never really listened to him, I think it's a good way to get into his music. Guys, just pick up the album The Stranger and listen to it right now. It's incredible. It's one of the greatest albums ever recorded, and I can't wait for part 2, because part 2 is going to focus on the 1980s, which obviously was when I was buying his albums brand new as a preteen, and it's exciting times. One of the greatest artists of all time, I think, is Billy Joel, and it's really, really great documentary. And I want documentaries like this to keep coming out because I can't get enough of them. The older you get, guys, the more you will be into documentaries. Something else I am into is what I call peak Robert De Niro movies. Now, that's like the 70s and 80s Robert De Niro when he was full of piss and vinegar and he was just one of the greatest actors working, right? I think he is one of the greatest actors of the generation. My wife had not seen anything really except like Meet the Fockers, I think, with Robert De Niro when we met. So slowly over the years, I've been trying to kind of peg away and get her to watch some of what I call the peak Robert De Niro years. Now, we've watched The Deer Hunter. We did that recently. I've shown her Goodfellas. I've shown her Taxi Driver, Godfather Part 2. I've shown her Heat. And then last night we watched Casino. Now, for me, guys, if it has Scorsese directing it and it stars De Niro and Joe Pesci, it's a hit. It's going to be amazing, right? I'll be honest. I'm not sure my wife's liked any of these movies yet. She hasn't hated them, but I don't think there's any of them where she's been like, wow, that was amazing. But I'm going to keep trying, damn it. But Casino, what can you say about that? It's one of the best movies of the 90s, I think. It might be my personal favorites of Scorsese. I don't know. I'd have to really, really dig into that list. But man, what a great movie. That's incredible acting, obviously. And I like that this is a 3-hour movie, and I feel like it zips by like this because the writing is just so sharp. I mean, it is fast-paced. It is scene to scene. It might be hard for some people to feel like, okay, it's not slowing down to take a breath at all. It is not. 3 hours. It's very, very quick. I look at this movie and I say, I see a lot of influence for something like The Sopranos. And obviously, if you like stuff like, if you've seen The Godfather Part 2, the parts in Vegas with Fredo and Mo Green and stuff, I think you would really, really like Casino. But De Niro, this might be my favorite role of his. He's so damn good in this movie. And to me, like at that time period, it's like in the mid 90s when I was a teenager, like De Niro was the essence of cool. He's like the type that was so cool you wanted to smoke a cigarette just because he was doing it, because he looked cool doing it. So that kind of guy. So I think maybe it was just perfect timing for me. When that movie came out, I was just about out of high school and really, really just vibing with that movie. I was looking for the kind of the anti-hero thing before the anti-hero thing broke big. I think that was one that I was really into. And if you like Goodfellas, I think you'll like this. It's a similar style. You're kind of going through the years with a character's life and just seeing what that style is like. But if you're like me and you're just fascinated by how casinos are operated in Las Vegas, I think you'll find a lot to really admire here. But yeah, spectacular soundtrack too. Incredibly shot. Again, one of the greatest performances. And one of the nice little bonus Easter eggs about this is that Robert De Niro is wearing a different suit in every single scene. Now, some of them are really, really awesome. Some of them maybe not so much, but they are time period appropriate. And I do admire that. Incredible wardrobing in that movie. So if you haven't seen Casino, guys, it's on HBO Max. Watch it right now. It's incredible. It's an incredible, incredible movie. And again, like I say, if you like something like The Sopranos, zero chance you will not like it's Casino. It's amazing. It is one of the best movies, like I said, of the 90s. And I think Raging Bull is going to be next, and maybe then The Untouchables, as far as what I'm going to show my wife. I've seen all these guys. I'm showing them to her for the first time, and I'm going to find a winner in here, damn it. Now, she did say the other day, I really did like Deer Hunter. Now, when it finished, she was kind of like, I don't know. And that's just what Deer Hunter does to you. It leaves you kind of feeling numb. I think that's what the movie is. So she was kind of like, iffy, but she's never once said that De Niro isn't amazing in these movies. She's saying like maybe she doesn't like him as much as me, and that's okay. But I want her to watch some of these. We've already got Cape Fear on the schedule for spooky season, which we'll be doing over on Mike's Media Reviews, and we are going to be picking out our spooky season movies here pretty soon. But we always have a couple that are locked on there. Cape Fear and Stephen King's The Monkey are both already kind of locked. And then we'll kind of go through and make our picks and then kind of cut those down like we always do every year. I can't wait to do it. But guys, that was my week. I'd love to know what your week is shaping up to look like. Why don't you drop in the comments, guys? Let me know what you're watching, what you're reading, what you listen to, what you are playing. I'd love to hear about it. So hit me in the comments, guys, and I will talk to you there.